Today, with the Conrad Seipp Brewing Company.
You're going to bring back this brand that had been gone for almost 100 years.
Exactly. We have such an amazing brewing culture here. Right. We have this incredible brewing past, but we didn't have a connection between the two, and I felt I was upset by that. I could fill that gap.
I love malty beers. I love Bocks. I love the transformative power and the health I feel now. My gout is gone. I had a goiter on my neck at the beginning of this program that is gone. What about the ginger ale? You going to bring ginger ale?
The ginger ale would be great. I think even before that, though, and I tell you this as a secret, everybody.
All right, listen, normally this is where I'd wrap up the show. However, we have a special mystery guest. Welcome to Crafty Brewers Tales Behind Craft Beer, the podcast that will increase your appreciation of craft beer and admiration for the men and women behind that beer. This is exciting. It's a first for us here on Crafty Brewers. In this episode, we are not at a brewery, but we are at a historic Chicago tavern. We are at Archie's Iowa Rockwell Tavern in the Ukrainian Village neighborhood, and it has been a staple, an anchor of this neighborhood since it was opened by Polish immigrants in 1943. If we're lucky, we may get to meet one of the founders' family members later, but Archie's is well known in this neighborhood. If you're a Hamm's beer drinker, you gotta come because this is the place to get two 250 cans at happy hour, which I'm gonna see if they'll extend happy hour to when we're done. But that's never an issue. We are here at this historic watering hole to talk to Laurin Mack. She's the owner of the Conrad Seipp Brewing Company. She's resurrected one of Chicago's first breweries almost 100 years after it was closed. It is a great family story, an unbelievable beer history story, and a truly unique Chicago story. So I'm really excited for this conversation. I'm beer drinker and hellraiser Brian Noonan, and all my opinions are strictly my own for good reason. Behind the camera is our award-winning executive producer, Cody Goff. Cody, what has excited you, or what are you excited about, I should ask, for this episode?
I'm excited about today's episode because you're going to learn about Chicago history through the story of beer from not one, but two literal descendants of two prominent figures from the history of Chicago beer. You like history, you like Chicago, you like beer, you're going to like this episode.
Very nice. Well, this is exciting. As I mentioned, this is Laurin Mack. Hello, Laurin. Welcome.
Hi,
she
Brian.
is the president of Conrad Seipp Brewing Company, the beer that built Chicago. You heard me. You might think if you grew up in Chicago, but I drank other beers. That was because Conrad Seipp Brewing was gone. Why? We'll get into all of that. But Conrad Seipp started brewing beer here in Chicago in 1854. The brewery, which Laurin will get into in more detail, survived the Great Chicago Fire, became one of the biggest breweries in Chicago, if not the United States, and now the brand is back, and we are very excited. Thank you so much for being here. This is great. We'll cheers to a good
Let's
conversation.
do it.
Cheers.
Here it comes.
Delish. All right, so I gave some of the basic things, but let's start with our locale today, because normally we go to the brewery, and we'll get into the fact that Seipp is now being brewed with Pilot Project, who we've talked to before. But when we were asked you to come on the show, and you graciously said yes, you wanted to come to an old Chicago tavern.
Right.
Why, and what made Archie's the place for you to decide to sit down with us?
What a great question, Brian. I think the thing that is most important to me, I really love Chicago, I love history, and I love beer. And what's so important about Chicago history is that it was really happened in historic Chicago saloons.
Right.
I believe at the turn of the century, there was something like 8,000. And so essentially there was a saloon on every corner. And that's where people came not just to have a refreshment, but also to meet friends and get the news from the day and maybe get a connection to get a job. Yep. It's also where immigrants were sent letters from home because people would have to move around a lot, but they would always go to the same watering hole. And so I think when we think about Chicago, we really need to think about what really makes us special, which is these sort of places where the community would gather and exchange ideas and have a nice time.
Yeah.
And over time, unfortunately, these wonderful corner bars have been dying out for a variety of reasons. And it's really important to me as I think about bringing back Chicago's historic beer is to really support these places that have been so important to Chicago history. And Archie's is one of my very favorites for all the reasons that you can tell just by sitting here tonight.
It's dog friendly. It seems to be friendly to anybody who walks through the door.
Exactly.
The $2.50 hams at happy hour, not bad. But yeah, free pool, free cheese balls. I mentioned this to you before. This is the kind of bar I spent a lot of hours at in my misspent youth.
Now I feel like I'm bringing you back to your roots.
100%. So we're here, and this is a great location to talk about history, which is what your journey has been.
Yeah.
I gave just a couple little facts about your great-great-great-grandfather.
You got it.
Conrad Seipp.
Right.
Tell us that story.
So Conrad was a immigrant from what now is Germany, but when he came over in 1849, things were a real mess in the Confederated States of Germany. And he came to America like all other immigrants to try and make a better life for him and his family.
Yeah.
And
had he been in the brewing business
in
Germany?
He was essentially a farmer and a carpenter. So he came with, to my knowledge, no brewing skills other than probably being able to drink plenty of beer.
Okay.
So he got to Chicago and he did a bunch of different things. He tried running a hotel. He drove a beer wagon, not for himself, but for somebody else. Mm-hmm. And then I think he also did some farming. And somewhere along the way, he decided it was a good idea to brew beer and got into brewing beer. And that, unfortunately, what's so frustrating about history is there are gaps in it. And so we've got to try and fill those gaps as we go.
Okay.
Somewhere along the way, and it may have been, I have a hunch, without getting too detailed here, he came through Rochester, New York, and there was a family there called the Bartholomew family, and the Bartholomews were German brewers who immigrated to America. So I'm wondering if he ran into them in Rochester, got the idea somehow, because his daughter, Clara, married a Bartholomew down the road. So I can't help but wonder if there was some connection there, but who knows? All the German brewers kind of stuck together, so maybe they ran into each other later. I'm just trying to piece together things. So however he came to it, he opened, essentially took over brewing from a family called it was the Best Brewing in Chicago. Okay. And unfortunately, like everything in those days, the brewery immediately burned down because they're using a lot of fire and they didn't have great safety measures in place. So that really sucks for Conrad, obviously. Yes. But like Conrad always did, is very bad things would happen. And I think that was one of the things that I really learned just learning about him, and just sort of the process of being around in those days is terrible things kept happening. And Conrad just kept moving forward. So the brewery burned down. So then he figured out how to make another brewery, this time made of bricks, just like in the Three Little Pigs. He got here, and then the country that he had decided to call his own started fighting each other in the Civil War. And then 2 of his children died from the cholera epidemic because Chicago, had lots of unsafe water to drink in those days. And then the city that he loved, half of it burned down in the Chicago fire. And
that's now, the second fire is enough, but fortuitously, when the first brewery burned down, he decided to build his new brewery a little, not right in downtown, right?
Right. It was a very good decision to build at 27th and Cottage Grove, which was right on the lake. And it turned out to be very far removed from any danger from the fire, which sadly for him, and also really quite luckily, half of his competition, there were 12 breweries at the time, and 6 of them went up in smoke.
Okay.
And then if you think about all of the people that were streaming into Chicago to rebuild the city, they needed beer.
Right.
Not just
because the whole place could burn at any moment.
I know.
Everybody was terrified.
Exactly.
Why are we coming here to this tinderbox? This is crazy.
So they were working like hell, working a lot, I should say, and they needed beer not only for after work. But during work, it was safer to drink beer than water at that time because of the impurities that were
That's
in
what
water.
I tell Cody. That's why I'm like, he's like, you should hydrate. I go, I am, but I'm trying to be safe.
Be safe.
I'm trying to be safe.
Safety first.
That's right. Who knows what microbes are in that water? So now things seem to be going good for Conrad. Finally,
Things are going pretty well.
things are going pretty well. His business is growing here in Chicago. Things are going well, and then the man steps in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of time happens between when Chicago burns down and then the man steps in. But during that time, things were going so well that in the after the fire, probably in like 1874 to 75, he's making so much beer that he's making the most beer in America.
That's
and
amazing.
He remains, even when I'm guessing, I'm not sure who it was that kicked him out of that throne, but even then he's in the top 10. When I say he, I mean he and all of his team.
In the country.
In the country.
Wow.
And so I think it's really important to recognize that the Conrad Seipp Brewing Company really was not only Chicago's beer, but it
Right.
was even America's beer.
It's amazing. Now, so then Prohibition comes.
Yeah, and before we even get to Prohibition,
Yeah.
we can't forget to talk about the World's Fair.
Oh, that's right.
Of
because
1893.
One of the beers. Go ahead. Yes, we must talk about the World's
So
Fair.
Conrad Seipp died in 1890, and it was right after he had built with his wife a house on the shores of Lake Geneva up in Wisconsin. And if you can imagine how Chicago's pretty hot, obviously. It's pretty hot, it's pretty dirty, especially in the summer. So he wanted to build this escape for his family, and that played a big role, actually, in how I decided to bring back the company, which I will talk about as we go. But unfortunately, he died pretty soon after he'd built that house. But the company, of course, went on, and so they were not exhibiting their beers at the World's Fair. So they were not Pabst, they were not Anheuser-Busch.
Okay.
What they were doing was what they do best. They were selling beers at
There you
the
go.
fair. And you can see there's some great pictures of a glass of Seipp's Pilsner on sale for 5 cents, which sounds like a great price point to me.
It does. Yes.
And they also had this really great promotional booklet that I still have a copy of that not only shows these great lithographs or pictures of what the brewery looked like and all these horses, and because people forget that these days breweries are just for brewing beer, which
Yeah.
is a lot in itself. But in the old days, you had a brewery that also was housing the horses who were distributing the beer, and then you had to have the blacksmith for making the barrels, and then you had to make the harnesses for pulling the wagons. Like, it was a massive, massive factory and a massive operation. So they were really displaying that as something they were a point of pride at the fair.
Right.
And then they were also describing the beers that they had for sale at that time. And it's so fun to read because it's like Victorian advertising at its finest. They talk about, actually, Seipp's Columbia, which we have over here, as being very dark in color and of unusual strength, as being a tonic for invalids and an absolute restorer of health.
Wow.
Which obviously you cannot advertise today, nor is it necessarily true. I will say I always feel strong
I
after
was
I
going
have
to
a
say,
Columbia.
every time I have beer, I feel invincible. So
Well, they were on to something. I'll
they
say
were.
that.
We're on to something.
So it's really helpful as I don't mean to move us along too quickly to the present, but I will say it's very helpful to have those pieces of ephemera and
Yes.
pieces of history that are written down that we can refer back to get clues about how things were.
Well, we'll get to that because when we talk about the modern day beers, but I do want to get to things seem to be going very well,
Things were going well.
and I do want to get to Prohibition because that's again
Bad time in
the
America.
bad time. Yes, it 100%. But then Conrad, he didn't quite make it through Prohibition.
No.
Not business-wise, but Conrad himself.
Yeah, Conrad definitely died way before Prohibition. He had 2 sons who essentially the eldest took over after he died.
Okay.
But And at that time, there was also a big injection of cash, for lack of a better word, from sort of outside investments to help modernize the brewery.
Okay.
And they were making a tremendous amount of beer, over 250,000 barrels of beer. I always mix that up. 250,000 barrels of beer, yes, which is, as you know, by modern day standards, a tremendous amount of beer.
And a very long song if you're singing it on a road trip.
Song, exactly. So by the time Prohibition rolls around, they, like everybody else, just try and figure out how to make sense of and survive in a very hostile climate, so to speak. And so they try doing things like they make a cereal beverage, very, very low alcohol.
Oh.
It was called the Malt Sinew, which I think is maybe not a brand that I will revive.
Okay, we'll take that off the list. Didn't have the restorative powers of the beer?
It definitely doesn't have a restorative name.
All right.
Good old, pass me a Malt Sinew, bartender. Just doesn't roll off the tongue.
Yeah, you're right.
They also made a ginger ale, which I learned about because we had eBay is an incredible source for historical artifacts. We found a bottle of Seipp's ginger ale on eBay.
Oh, wow.
Which was great. And they unfortunately just were unable to weather the storm. And the brewery closed and was torn down in 1933, right as Prohibition was about to lift.
Okay, that's where I got confused. Right when Prohibition was ending.
And this is just, this is really just supposition, but Conrad Seipp had 2 sons, both of whom died relatively early, and he had 6 daughters that survived infancy, essentially. And in those days, women just didn't run breweries.
Yeah.
And what I think is nice is that today they do.
Today they do.
And I can only imagine all of those 6 women were very capable of running a brewery, but they just didn't or couldn't. And so it means a lot to me to know that we're able to make things a little different now.
Well, let's jump ahead then, because you mentioned that the house in Lake Geneva and going there during the summers was influential in your deciding to resurrect the brand.
Yeah.
What was your background prior to that, and what other things made you go, boy, this is something we need to bring this back?
Well, it definitely started in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, because our family, that house stayed in our family until 2005, when my uncle donated it to the state of Wisconsin so that everyone could enjoy it as much as we had.
It's a museum now, correct?
It's a museum, yeah. You guys have to come check it out. It's pretty great.
The home is beautiful. I've seen pictures.
It's a beautiful home and a beautiful setting, and it really has this great vibe of just like nature and celebration and being together. So I love to be able to share that with everyone who wants to come and hang out.
Nice.
You get there the same way that the family did in the old days, because there weren't cars. You would take a train to a boat to the house.
Wow.
And so now you go to the town of Lake Geneva and take a boat and get dropped off and come up to the house just as the family would have.
That's amazing.
So all of this is to say, I'm getting myself off track here, is that I grew up going there to visit my grandparents and my great uncle, and it's just a magical place. And people sort of reference beer in a very non-direct way, and they would talk about Conrad Seipp, but it was certainly not the focus. Beer was sort of a part of our German heritage.
Sure.
And then when I came of drinking age and started to drink beer myself,
7, 8.
21.
Oh,
Brian.
I'm sorry.
I realized.
I'm not an attorney, Laurin.
I realized, wow. I started to just sort of learn more about it.
Yeah.
And I recognized, oh my gosh, Conrad Seipp, he was a beer baron. And before you're an adult, you don't really understand what a beer baron is. You don't really understand what it takes to build a nice big old house on a lake. You also don't realize the history of Chicago, which is really very much founded on beer.
Yeah.
Liz Garibay from the Beer Culture Center can tell you all about how this is really the fabric of our city here and in the Midwest and really America.
Yeah. It's so you're learning about your great-great-great-grandfather.
Yes.
You're surrounded by family. That's a big jump, though, to say, instead of saying, oh, this is a great family story and wasn't this wonderful, to say, I'm going to bring this back.
It is. My mom would say it's because I can't let anything go. Maybe she's right. I also recognized, because I was living in Chicago, I live in Chicago. My family is from Chicago. My mother moved to Virginia, and so I was born in Virginia, but moved back to Chicago with my husband in 2013. And drinking a lot of beer in Chicago, I realized, wow, we have such an amazing brewing culture here. Right. So many amazing present-day breweries. And then we have this incredible brewing past, which I knew just because I love history and I love beer. But we didn't have a connection between the two. And I felt I was upset by that. And I realized that I, just by nature of being related to this guy, Conrad Seipp, who I really see as being sort of the OG of Chicago brewing, I could fill that gap. And I decided that was something that was really important to try to do. I also have recognized I'm a little bit competitive because I realized, I was like, wait a second, Old Style, it's not from Chicago.
No.
It's not even that old. So why are we making that be Chicago's beer?
I'm sorry, where is Old Style from?
Wisconsin.
La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Yeah,
Pure
sorry,
brew,
Cody.
Croisoned in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Don't be sorry.
I don't know what croisoning is.
I don't
I know
drink.
the commercials.
Cody looks shocked.
I don't drink it.
I grew up drinking, literally grew up drinking Old Style.
Right, you were drinking when you were 8.
Yes,
Don't do
which
that
is
at
why
home.
I'm surprised that Laurin waited so long. She's got a.
He means 21.
That's what. Oh, hello. Did I mention it's dog friendly? Look at this dog.
There are
Came in.
dogs. I don't think the camera can see
There's
it, but
dogs everywhere. Hi,
I'm literally gonna pull out my phone and just get a video
Dogs
of the dog
love beer,
to cut
too.
to.
There's nothing
Yeah.
better than a dog and a beer.
A bunch of dogs have been walking around. I'm like, are they gonna step on my cables? Is that a problem?
This one seems like he's been drinking. He's wagging off a lot of.
He's got
wetness.
his own microphone. He can jump in.
It's a she,
Or
maybe
she.
it's a she.
He or
They've
she.
got pearls on. They're very nice. How you doing, Barnaby?
That's a beautiful
Barnaby.
little dog. If you're just listening to the audio of this episode, I apologize.
There's a
That was-
giant.
We're
Bordeaux.
having a really good time with this dog.
This
so.
dog came up. So, as you said, why should Old Style or any beer claim Chicago when Conrad Seipp Brewing was the place? So your competitive juices start flowing.
Yeah, it just didn't seem right. I really hate it when things are misrepresented.
Were you a brewer before?
No, I mean, I
Okay.
drank beer, but I definitely wasn't a brewer. And I'm still not a brewer, to be perfectly
Right.
fair. I can really barely make toast. But I, luckily
You thought
enough,
this was a good idea.
I thought it was a great idea.
This is an idea
Maybe foolish.
I'm going to follow through on.
My moniker is "What would Conrad do?" And what Conrad did was come to a foreign land
Yeah, he had
where he didn't really speak the language. He was not a brewer, and he figured out how to make things work. So I figured I gotta honor him and see what I can do.
Okay, now, before we get into because I mentioned that you're working with Pilot Project now, but that's not where it started.
Right.
But you're going to bring back this brand that had been gone for almost 100 years.
Exactly.
I told you this when I met you at Beer Under Glass. I'm embarrassed to say I had never heard of Conrad Seipp Brewing.
I'm embarrassed
because
too, Brian.
I know, but I was drinking in the present.
Right.
The only ghost of beer past I have is like on Christmas Eve when I pass out, and then who knows what I'm dreaming of. So I didn't know. And the minute you started telling Cody and I your story, I was like, oh, we need to talk to Laurin. But I can't be the only person in Chicago that when you decided to resurrect your great-great-great-grandfather's brand said, I've never heard of them. So was that the first hurdle that you had to overcome?
Yes, and I'm still overcoming it.
I was going to
For
say,
sure.
yeah.
I will say that there is a subset of Chicagoans who are very focused on beer and beer history.
Yes.
And to them, Conrad Seipp is not an unknown person, which
Sure.
is... But he's an unknown person from the point of view of he's a historical figure who, existed in essentially the 19th century. So that's very different than handing someone a beer and being like,
Right. And
Here's
we can
Conrad
remember
Seipp's beer.
brands that were in the 40s, 50s, 60s
Exactly.
that have come and gone. But past that, it's like, oh, that's, monks making
Right.
beer somewhere
exactly.
else.
Conrad might as well have been a Belgian monk. I think it is such a pleasure to recognize, for me, this beer is not so much about, it's definitely not about me. It's a little bit about Conrad. It's all about Chicago,
Yeah.
the people who love Chicago, and all of us thinking about where our own families
Yes.
and our own history comes from. And so by being able to drink beer and sort of connect to a story of this guy who came over and tried to make a better life for himself and really did a nice job building Chicago through beer, we can think about where our own families were in 1854. Brian, where was your family?
My entire family was still in Ireland in
Well, there you
1854.
go.
My grandparents emigrated here, so I'm not that far removed. But we didn't make beer; we just drank beer.
Oh,
they
well,
all
that's
came
never
from
bad.
Ireland.
Also
so yeah.
good.
But yeah, it does make that connection, which is what beer is all about anyway. In a way of you're connecting with your friends, you're sitting around with your family, everybody's just sharing a drink and relaxing and telling stories.
Yeah.
And so this takes us back even further to give a different perspective, which is great. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the beer. We're going to talk about, as you mentioned, you are not a brewer.
I am
but
not.
somehow there is beer in my glass.
Yes.
So somebody brewed this.
They did.
And it was not as easy as, we're going to get some water, some hops, and some grains and make this.
It never is.
So Laurin Mack is our guest. She is the great-great-great-granddaughter of Conrad Seipp and the president of Conrad Seipp Brewing Company. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and try another beer from Seipp Brewing Company and talk more with Laurin. It's Crafty Brewers. And we are back on Crafty Brewers Tales Behind Craft Beer, coming to you from Archie's Tavern in the Ukrainian Village neighborhood of Chicago, because we are talking to Laurin Mack. She is the president, CEO, the woman behind Conrad Seipp Brewing Company. That brewing company was started by her great-great-great-grandfather, Conrad Seipp, and this is a very exciting. The story so far has been phenomenal. We are going to tell us a little bit before we get into, because as I mentioned before the break, you told us you're not a brewer. And yet now we are looking at our second beer from Conrad Seipp Brewing Company, which we'll get into how is it. But what is this beer?
Brian, did we even talk about the first beer from the Conrad?
We're going to talk about the first beer because that leads to talking about how you got involved with the person who brewed the first beer. But as people see me drinking this, and we already talked about this one because
The Columbia, we did talk about it.
That's right. So tell us, this is the Bock for
Yes. The Columbia Bock, we call it the Columbia World's Fair Bock, and it was brewed, everyone have a sip who has a glass. It was brewed, that's me too, I'm sorry, I'm taking a sip
Oh
real
my
quick.
God. I love malty beers. I love Bocks.
think
I
this
love
is
the transformative power and the health I feel now.
the
I am
absolute
invigorated.
Restoration.
My gout is gone. I had a goiter on my neck at the beginning of this program that is gone.
You heard it here first,
It's
folks.
medicinal. Remember, my opinions are just my own.
So this beer, we wanted to... Oh,
What? This is so freaking good.
oh, Cody looks happy. This is great.
Very happy.
No, I'm like shocked at how good. Like I just thought, oh look, I'm gonna have like a
I feel like you guys are a PR team. This is awesome.
No,
Woo.
dude, like I mean
We're not paid to be effusive, and we're not paid to. We're not paid by anybody, quite frankly, which is sad. Sponsorships, we love them. But no, that's the thing we get a lot from brewers. Oh, you're gonna come in and rate beers? Like, no, we want to talk. We're fans of beer.
It's so nutty.
Yes. Tell us about this one. Tell us what makes it so nutty.
This beer is a really great beer for lots of reasons, one of which is it is indeed very dark in color and of unusual strength, just as it was described in that promotional pamphlet. And Doug Hurst, Tracy Hurst, Liz Garibay, and I, when we were conceiving of this beer, we knew we wanted to bring back the Columbia brand. So that's the thing about these beers is the number one myth about the Conrad Seipp Brewing Company is that Conrad Seipp came down from heaven and gave me all of his recipes. Unfortunately, or fortunately, he did not. I say fortunately because we live in 2025 or whatever year it is now, and we want to drink beers that we like the taste of today. I don't want to make the Williamsburg of beers and have us all just going back wearing wool suits all the time.
No.
And so I think it's really important. Our motto is to connect with the past while enjoying the present. And I think this beer does a really good job of that. It is a dark lager, which people are afraid of for some reason.
Don't be afraid of this
Don't be
beer.
afraid. It is very rich, but it is not sweet.
No.
And it has a very dry finish, which is critical. And I think this really speaks to Doug Hurst, who I think is, I'm sorry to be offensive to anybody, but I think is the best lager brewer in Chicago.
Well, let's talk about Doug Hurst,
Yeah.
formerly of Metropolitan, RIP Metropolitan, unbelievable brewery, bad landlord situation. We won't get into all the details, but RIP Metropolitan. So you've decided, okay, I'm bringing back the family business. How do you get connected with Doug Hurst, and how does he become the guy who is going to help you decipher the notes that you have about the beers
Right.
to create two of the three, well, all the beers that we see before us, along with the Hefeweizen, which is the third Seipp beer that's going on now?
Like everything in life, it was really just about relationships. I've found that to be particularly true in the beer world. I had a good relationship with the current director, Dave DeSimone, of the Black Point Estate and Gardens, which is the name of the Conrad Seipp Museum now up in Lake Geneva. And he said, you've got to meet this great person, Liz Garibay.
Yes.
She runs something called the Chicago Brewseum, which is now the Beer Culture Center. And so I said, great, I'd love to meet her. And I met Liz, and it was just, for me, I don't know about Liz, but love at first sight. She's just the most wonderful person and just been a true friend. And I call her my fairy godmother of beer because we met, and she was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
She said, I got a guy and a gal, Doug Hurst and Tracy Hurst, who own Metropolitan over in Avondale, and they make really fantastic German-style beers. You should meet them.
Great.
And so they were very nice and invited me to come and drink some beer at their wonderful brewery. And we hit it off, which is awesome because I don't have tattoos and I don't listen to metal music yet.
I know.
There's always room for growth. And
Which one first, do you think?
We'll see.
Big back piece?
But so it was really great because although our brands that I was conceiving at that time and their brand that already existed were very different, but we had very much the same view on the world, which is being nice to people and being all about community and making a really, really good beers.
What were you conceiving at the time when you first met Doug? What was your concept of the style?
I knew that we needed to start, or the first brand that I wanted to bring back was Seipp's Extra Pale. And I knew that was important because it was one of Seipp's most popular beers. And I also recognized that we were going to be probably releasing in the summer, and who doesn't want to drink a good Pilsner in the summertime?
Right.
Believe it or not, Seipp's Extra Pale is actually a Pilsner, which is very confusing, but I don't have a lot of license to change names that are over 100 years old. So all of the brands were just essentially one by one reviving and doing a lot of beer detective work on trying to decide what we want the actual styles to be. For the Extra Pale, we knew that it was a Pilsner, and we knew that it was made of pre-Prohibition, so we decided to name it so that people would have some context.
Yeah.
Pre-Prohibition Pilsner. Conrad Seipp would have rolled over in his grave if he knew the Prohibition was coming. And so based off of Doug's knowledge of brewing techniques before Prohibition and based off of what we saw from the labels, because although we didn't have the beer, we did have all of Conrad's labels, which was great.
Did they have to list ingredients back then?
They did
like we do
not,
now?
which is a funny story because at some point in I think it was like the 1910s, somebody did something wrong at the Conrad Seipp Brewing Company, and the feds came in and published an analysis of what was in the Extra Pale beer.
What did they do wrong?
I don't know what they did wrong, but it
Ooh.
ended up being pretty great for us because we have a very clear list of all of the, everything that was analyzed at that time.
All right.
So that was helpful. And then it was also helpful to know that beer is a pretty straightforward thing to make from the point of view of ingredients. We were using the same water from Lake Michigan,
right.
primary ingredient. We knew that he was using Bohemian hops. It said that on the can, or sorry, not on the can, but on the label of the bottles made from Bohemian hops. And we know that he was using, that it was a lager.
Okay.
So we knew what kind of yeast he was using. And we also knew that in those days, and I won't get too beer nerdy on anyone here.
No,
but
we like
essentially,
nerd. We like science.
just to get stick my toe in the beer nerd pond. The Pilsners, when they first came to America, there was such a craze from Europe about this Pilsner revolution. And in America, we were like, great, we want to make these awesome Pilsners, but we had the wrong barley. We were using 6-row barley, which is great for growing pigs, but not great for beer. Okay. It's very proteiny, and it made for this like very globular, sort of thick Pilsner. Exactly. Ugh. So we recognized, when I say we, I mean the brewers at that time, Siebel, the Siebel Institute was part of this process, recognized that if you add a little bit of rice or a little bit of corn, it just lightens the beer up and makes it that crisp, refreshing Pilsner that we're trying to make. And so that's actually where the American adjunct beer started. We weren't in America trying to make a cheap beer. We were trying to make a good Pilsner that happened to be made with an ingredient that was cheaper than barley. Okay. And I think they overdid it a little bit in as far as Budweiser and Miller by adding too much of these adjuncts. But it was really important to make the extra pale by adding just a little bit of flaked corn. And when you taste it, you can taste there's that little bit of sort of a little bit of roundness, corn roundness at the end that I think really brings a nice sweetness to it.
Cody, you've been screaming the praises of this beer since you started chugging it before the show, which is your usual MO, getting hammered while we're working.
It's only 4.5% alcohol, so we don't have to worry about Cody getting hammered.
Crushable, as the kids like to say.
Exactly.
This is so crushable. Like,
I agree.
My go-to off-the-clock beers, which is a question we ask a lot of brewers, what's your go-to off-the-clock beer?
Spoiler.
My go-to off-the-clock beer is whatever. It's really light and just crushable. And, like, this is that. But normally I would go to, like, a Dovetail or a Goldfinger, something like that. But like this is there. Like I am the next time I see a 4-pack of this, I am literally going to buy it.
The Goldfinger and Dovetail, they make great beers too. And I think what's important is that we're all just working together trying to make great lagers.
They are. All of them. I think it's funny, you said the Extra Pale is 4.5. The one that is supposed to have so much more strength, the Columbia, is only 6.
And I think that's important to recognize that in the old days, they weren't thinking of strength as being ABV, but I think that it was more what you were talking about, is that feeling of sort of like robust malts. And they didn't really, in those days, they just didn't really care so much about ABV. And in fact,
they were trying to drink to forget that they're living in the 1800s.
They were also drinking a tremendous amount. So the lesser the alcohol level, the better for everything. In fact, Conrad Seipp, a thing that we haven't really talked about yet, is that he was Chicago. I love Chicago because we were so good at drinking beer in Chicago that we could drink all the beer that we made here and then all the beer that they made in Milwaukee. And so the brewers in Chicago really didn't have to look out to outside markets. But Conrad, who was really a very good businessman, did look and he was one of the first guys to start exporting his beer outside of Chicago, and I think even had a patent on a refrigerated what are those called, boxcars?
Yeah, for the trains.
Mm-hmm. So he was shipping beer out west, and there was a quote in the Chicago Tribune about how Conrad Seipp had done more for the temperance movement out west than any religious group, simply because he was shipping out beer and giving people an alternative to drinking whiskey at night after they were building railroads or whatever they were working on. So I think that's a really interesting thing to think about.
Wasn't Conrad friends with Pabst?
He sure was.
So now we'll jump ahead a little with Doug and bring it kind of all back together.
We're all over the place, Brian.
Huh?
We're all over the place.
We're all over the place,
Zipping
but time
through
is
history.
the tyrant. Listen, we could sit for hours and talk about the whole story.
We could.
And we probably will, but people are short
They're
attention
listening.
spans. So Doug is brewing. He's starting with you. You're brewing at Metropolitan. Metropolitan closes.
Just to make a note that this is all happening during the pandemic. So in 2020, it was definitely not something that any of us were expecting, and it made for this process to be a little bit more fly by the seat of our pants than I think any of us were expecting. So I feel very thankful to Doug and Tracy for being willing to take on this crazy new project as a global pandemic is striking us all down.
How was the beer first accepted in the market? Like we were talking about before, beer historians knew the brand. it's got to be hard to break in to a market that has so much good beer with even though it's a historic brand, most people don't know it. So how is it received once Doug does his detective work, comes up with Extra Pale? You guys know it's a good beer. It fits what you had envisioned. Now what? We got to get people to drink it.
Now we've got a lot of beer and we got to get people to drink it and to buy it. I think that this is a one aspect of the pandemic that was helpful, even though there was just pretty much all aspects of the pandemic are really awful. But it meant that a lot of people were consuming alcohol.
Yes.
And they were also pretty much glued to their devices, and they were looking for some good news.
Okay.
And when day after day you're just hearing these really scary, awful things, it's really nice to be like, oh, a historic Chicago beer is back.
Yeah.
And so we just had a lot of interest from the point of view of news outlets wanting to talk about what we were doing and about the beer.
Yeah.
We had a lot of people who just wanted to go and find it and drink it, and they had the time to do that.
And it's not being brought back by some mega conglomerate.
No.
It's being brought back by a descendant of the guy who made it.
I am not what are those things called? A PE firm? Private equity?
No.
I'm a person. I'm really related to this guy. I exist. So I think that was nice too. I think
Yes.
it also is helpful that I'm a woman, because it is interesting how it's definitely a male-dominated industry, which is fine. I think males are very nice.
Yes.
But I am always struck by how few women there are around.
Yeah, it's getting a little better. We've talked about it before, but it is a thing that, thankfully the women in the industry are bringing more women into the industry, which is terrific.
Beer's for everybody.
So now you're out there. The beer is getting a push. Maybe not the way you wanted it to, but people are finding it because of the pandemic.
They are.
When Metropolitan closes,
Yes.
which is unfortunate, as I mentioned before, what do you do then? Because now you've had this champion who's come in and decided he wanted to work with you and he knows what he's doing.
And they're also
What's
just
the
really
next step? Really nice
just
people.
really nice people and really close friends. So it's truly, really awful in all regards. And I do want to say that so much of Seipp's success is really just based on Metro's being so open with sharing their distributor with us.
Okay.
Sharing so many of their connections with us, whether it's bars or restaurants, or connecting us with Binny's, who's been a really fabulous partner, along with Garfield's and so many great outlets, now Jewel Osco and Whole Foods. So I'm just so thankful to everything the Metropolitan did. They did go out of business, and it was tough because I felt I couldn't let Seipp die a second death. And so I was just really looking for another partner that could help carry on sort of what we were trying to do. And Pilot Project, really, I'd been friends with those guys since we started, and they were just really great and being like, hey, we can do this together. And it's been a wonderful partnership.
Now, do you see the irony of the fact that the beer that built Chicago,
Yes, I do, Brian.
And Conrad's connection to Milwaukee, and now Pilot Project, which started here, but because of the demand for Seipp, they have a much bigger facility in Milwaukee. So the beer that built Chicago is now being brewed in Milwaukee.
And even better, as far as funny connections go, is that you mentioned earlier, Conrad Seipp and Frederick Pabst were indeed friends. In fact,
and where is Pilot Project located?
They are located in the bottling plant of the Pabst campus, essentially. So I have to say that Conrad and Frederick are up there, or wherever they are, thinking this is pretty awesome. That
it is.
Everything's coming
together.
That's
just a crazy confluence of pasts and history.
I know.
All of it jammed together, which is unbelievable. Okay, so you've got the Extra Pale, you've got Columbia.
Yep. And then we have the Bavarian.
The Hefeweizen is up in that corner.
Yes, right here
Bavarian,
in front of the sign.
The Hefeweizen.
This,
what's next for? We've already ruled out the one with the crazy name.
We're not immediately going to make the malt Sinu. It's true,
malt
simply
Sinu
because
out.
the name is so.
Okay. What about the ginger ale? You going to bring ginger ale?
The ginger ale would be great. I think even before that, though, and I tell you this as a secret, everybody. We are going to bring back Seipp Hollander, which was a beer that was made in around 1914. And it was, I think, very much playing into the idea that at that point, Amstel and Heineken had not come to America, yet we had all of these Dutch immigrants who I'm sure, like everyone else, gets to America and this is their home and wants to drink a beer that's familiar. And so I think the Conrad Seipp Brewing Company was like, all right, everyone, we've got the beer for you. So we're going to bring that beer back. I will say it takes a little while to do the historical research and make sure everything's matching up, but that'll be our next beer.
Before we get to the final four, I know being successful at the business end of this has got to be very fulfilling. But what deeper feeling is there for you as a family member, bringing this back and seeing that people are accepting it, and not only accepting it but embracing it, and
Man, I got to tell you, Brian, beer, as we all know, is not a place to make a whole lot of money, and that's not the reason why I think anyone ever gets into it. It is extremely rewarding to meet people and hear their stories, to have people send me pictures of their family's corner bar that was selling Seipp 100 years ago. There's just been so many wonderful. I had a great guy who was a construction worker working on on a L station somewhere up north, and he said he dug up this bottle when he was working on the stadium. I keep saying that, station, and it was a Conrad Seipp bottle, and there wasn't the internet at that time, so he just put it in the back of his closet. 30 years later, he decides to look up this company, and he emailed me and said, I've got your bottle, I want to return it, and asked for my address. And so I received this bottle, and I sent him a t-shirt. But it's that kind of connection that just means so much to me. And I think that's where my love of Archie's comes in, is not only is it a fabulous corner bar, but also the Archie's family has just been such a great connection just to make and to sort of continue the concept of old stuff being new again.
Perfect. All right, we're going to ask the final four. We ask these questions to every guest. Some may be difficult, some may not. Don't worry about it.
Okay,
I'm
nervous.
Now, this is going to be interesting because you are bringing back historic styles and a historic brand. The hill that Conrad Seipp Brewing will die on. Will you ever is there a beer that you go, well, they didn't make these beers back then, we're not going to make a certain kind of beer?
It's a good question. I think it's really important never to say never, because we never know what the future is going to bring. So I will try not to be too firm about anything, but I will say making a hazy IPA doesn't make a whole lot of sense for a company that has pretty strong German roots.
Right.
But that being said, I think it's important to be open to stuff. So who knows? But I'll say probably a hazy IPA is not our fifth beer that's going to come out.
And I'm editing the second question a little bit because coming back, but when you and Doug were working on Extra Pale, the first beer, were there incarnations where you said to yourself, oh boy, this one, we're not doing this one again?
No, I mean, Doug is a fabulous brewer, and he pretty much hit it out of the park right away. I think we did a small, just one barrel batch on their test system, and it was great, but we figured it was probably a little too hoppy for the common Pilsner, not common, but the Pilsner
more
drinkers.
mainstream Pilsner.
Yeah, so we decided to just dial that back, but that was just a one-time just dial back, and it was still really good.
What's your go-to off-the-clock beer? It could be one of yours, it could be anyone.
I will say, similar to my new friend Cody, I drink a tremendous amount of Seipp's Extra Pale, not only because I like the taste, but I also love drinking beer, and I hate the feeling of being drunk, so it's just nice to drink something that's not very alcoholic.
Perfect. And our final four, do you have a favorite beer and food pairing, whether it's with Extra Pale and something that you make at home, or what's your favorite beer and food pairing?
I feel so comfortable with you guys. I'm gonna share something with you that I rarely share with others. I really love hot dogs. They're my favorite meat. And I am also one of the members of the Chicagoans for Catch-Up Society.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
Cody, would you like to join the club?
Yes. What is
So,
with people?
It's a small club.
What is
I will
with people?
happily
And
eat a
this
Chicago dog.
interview is over.
I don't like ketchup.
on.
I'm so cool.
I
I'm
love
so sick of that.
ketchup,
I'm
just
so
not on my hot dogs.
Oh, it's delicious. So if you're going to catch me eating or drinking an extra pail, it may very well be
with a
any kind of hot dog. but
ketchup-covered hot dog.
whatever you hand me, I'll eat it.
All right,
I love
very nice.
the Chicago history of this episode, but that you'll buck that trend because it's dumb. Like, I'm sorry, Chicago, but like, there's a lot of great Chicago things, but that's dumb.
Cody, when I was a child, I ate like a child, meaning I put ketchup on a hot dog.
Oh, for God's
Then I
sakes,
became a
Brian.
man, and I put mustard, relish, onion, and sport peppers on my hot dog.
Look at this.
No
so
tomato,
indignant.
no
How
celery
do you deal with
salt.
this, Cody?
Unacceptable.
He's dealt with it for a long time. All right, listen, normally this is where I'd wrap up the show. However, we're going to take a quick break, and then we have a special mystery guest. So hang on. We're going to have a little more beer. We're going to turn the table a little bit, and then we'll be back. It's Crafty Brewers, Tales Behind Craft Beer. Laurin Mack is our guest. We'll be back in a second. We are back. It's Crafty Brewers, Tales Behind Craft Beer. Laurin Mack has been my guest. She is the president of Conrad Seipp Brewing Company, a historic brand that is now back and doing fantastic. And if you haven't heard of Conrad Seipp Brewing or haven't tried Conrad Seipp Brewing, you can get it everywhere, and you can get it at some of your favorite corner taverns, which is why we are at Archie's. And look, we have a special guest. Hi, Katrina Arthur is here, and Katrina is Archie's granddaughter. And so this is your family lineage. Your family owns the building. You have been in Ukrainian Village since probably before it was Ukrainian Village, when it was just a corner in Chicago. Give us the full name, because most people who come in here, I'm sure all your regular patrons just know it as Archie's, but that's not the full name of the bar.
The Iowa Rockwell Tavern, LLC, DBA, Archie's Iowa Rockwell Tavern, LLC.
Wow.
Just had to make sure you got all the
Right.
I's and T's crossed.
The Iowa Rockwell, for those outside of Chicago, is because
We are on the corner of Iowa and Rockwell.
it's creative
really-
branding right
yeah.
there. That is
Corner bar.
fantastic.
Can't forget it.
No.
Where's Archie's? Well, it's at Iowa and Rockwell.
All right, one of the things, for people who have never been to Archie's, one of the things this tavern is known for is hams.
Yes.
There is a giant Hamm's beer sign hanging, which makes it unique in Chicago, where old style signs were the thing. A giant ham sign. How did Archie's become synonymous with hams? I already mentioned happy hour, 250 cans of hams. How did
I
hams
heard
happen?
that plug, and I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And that is Tuesday through Friday, 4 to 7 p.m.
All right, so pretty much every day but Monday and the weekend.
So in the early 60s is going to be my best guess. A sales rep came in here and said, "Hey, Archie, you want a ham sign?" My grandpa looked at him and I was like, "No." And then the sales rep went, "Hey, it's free." And my grandpa was like, "Yes, put it up." And it's been hanging there ever since. And then for a while, we did not carry hams.
Okay.
However, when I started working here more than a few years ago,
7 or 8?
something like that.
When you were 7 or 8, yeah.
Actually, my first bartending shift here when I was 8 years old.
Perfect. See?
wow.
Yeah.
Lauren, and you mock the 8-year-olds drinking and working in bars.
I do.
But I was, I didn't necessarily take over, but, I took over. And I was like, do they still make hams? And yes, they do.
In the land of sky blue waters.
It is the beer
Waters.
refreshing.
It is the beer refreshing.
Yeah.
I wish some of the commercials, I don't know if they could still run, but the bear floating down, but the bear floating down the river in the canoe
Yeah.
is iconic.
It is. Unfortunately, Joe Camel ruined that for us in the
I
90s.
know.
However, it's kind of confusing because they brought back Sasha the Bear. They do limited promotional items with the bear, so I don't
Really?
know how that fits in. And for those who don't know, Sasha the bear was named after Theodore Hamm's wife.
Really?
As a
Oh,
little
I did not
lovely
know that.
tribute to her.
That's a great tribute.
I'm gonna break the fourth wall again, Cody. This dog wants to be on TV. This dog is a ham because it walks up and it immediately turns and faces the camera.
If I'm not mistaken, the dog's name is Fran.
Fran?
Fran the ham.
Fran the ham. You always want to be part of the broadcast. You can stay right there, buddy. You're all right.
So there's this wonderful story about my grandfather. Every morning, he would stand in front of the bar in, let's just say the 90s, and he would see the kids walking to school at that hour. And then he'd also have a pocket full of milk bones. Yep, and that's kind of where it started.
Yeah, because I mentioned at the beginning, people have been playing pool. Pool is free.
Yep.
Cheese balls are free.
Most importantly.
And dog treats. So if you bring your dog to Archie's, because it is pet friendly, and this is I mentioned at the beginning, it's the first that we've had outside of a brewery. It's also the first where dogs have wandered up, and I love dogs. I see all kinds of dogs just laying around chilling. So there's dog treats are free. Where did the cheese balls come from? Because cheese balls are very
Brian,
popular.
they came from heaven.
Yes.
There you go.
Oh my gosh, actually one day my mom and I were shopping, and this again was more than a few years ago, and we're like, ooh, those are only like $4 a tub. We should get some. And it's kind of been like that for well over a decade now. They're no longer $4 a tub.
No.
And we buy them in quantities of 20.
20 of the big jumbo
Yep.
tubs.
We hit up Menards. We do wait for an 11% sale.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Happening now.
Gotta-
I'm sure you know that.
Gotta be smart.
We have to save more money.
You've got to save more money. I also like that sometimes people who don't really come into corner taverns, but because this is, I said it not in jest, just the kind of bar that I grew up drinking in. This is what was in every neighborhood, even in the suburbs. It doesn't matter. You could always find a tavern. You guys, while being the place that sells, you said more hams than anywhere in the country?
No, the entire world.
The entire world. They sell more hams at Archie's than anywhere in the world. And now the snobs are going, well, that's because who would buy ham? A lot of people are buying hams. Don't kid yourself.
Yeah, we're about 46,000 cans a year, approximately.
But I also see, as I'm looking at your delivery, you've got Half Acre and Three Floyds and Eris and all the craft beers too. So people can come in here, they can get a shot of beer, they can get a cocktail, they can get
Malort. Don't forget the
Malort.
Malort.
The Malort, yes.
And also, you can get a Miller Lite if you're a Miller Lite drinker.
There you go. So everything.
We don't take sides.
Can I also say I've been here since 5 o'clock. You've probably been here since longer
Since
because I was
noon.
late. The place has been packed, and it's a Tuesday,
Yeah.
like the whole time. This is a hopping spot.
Why, thank you very much. I like to consider Archie's like an extension of the neighborhood. You know, we don't have community centers anymore.
Or senators.
And I kind of just like my bar to be like a meeting place where everybody is welcome. And honestly, everyone who's not an asshole.
There you go. That should be a sign too.
It is, and that's just the bare threshold.
Even podcasters are welcome. Brian.
Podcasters are welcome even when they take up a lot of space. It's been taking up a lot
We
of
should
space.
talk to the owners about
Yeah,
it.
I wish I knew I had some pull with the owner. Then maybe I'd get that straightened out. But we'll wrap things up so people don't get mad at us. What are these little things that you've passed to me here? This little drink token. These are fantastic.
Oh,
Yes.
These are wooden nickels. Wooden nickels used to be very, very popular back in the day.
Okay.
Before matchbooks were a thing.
Sure.
And it would entice customers to come back for another drink. When we celebrated our 65th anniversary, my mom was insisted we needed drink tokens. And so we did. And we bought like 500, and we maybe have one or two. No one has returned them.
Wow.
Really? They're just holding on to a
They're
collector's
holding-
item.
Exactly.
Well, this one is from your 80th anniversary. In 2023, it says Archie's, and then it gives the address, which is 2600 West Iowa Street, which is at the corner of Iowa and, do you remember, Cody?
Rockwell.
Woo!
There you go. So, yeah, family owned and operated. So if you come in now, if I come in and I'm sitting at the bar and I want to buy somebody a drink or I want to buy the bartender drink, I get them the token and they can hang on to it.
Exactly.
And then once you get about a stack about yay high, you can come in and just have a good time. But then if you're getting all those free drinks, you got to tip.
Always
tip the bartender. So before I let you go and before we wrap up, for everybody who's grown up in a neighborhood that had a tavern or maybe knew the family, I knew a girl in high school whose family owned a tavern. What is it like growing up in this environment? Because I think it would be a blast. It's hard work, I'm guessing, but was it as fun as somebody like me would think it is?
Yeah, it really was. And I just never really thought of it as different when I was younger, when I was, in high school before that. I really started to realize it later in life that I have all these experiences and I know all these people. And yes, there's the cliches, aunts and uncles,
sure,
that have no family relation. But it was actually just one of my favorite, I love it. One of my favorite memories was when I was about 8 years old, we came to visit Grandpa on a Sunday and he was playing cards, which he did all the time over 35 years ago. And he was playing cards with Mr. Paul. And I don't know what happened. For some reason, I dropped something. I went down to the floor. I was 8 years old. And then I stood back up and I was like, Grandpa, why does Mr. Paul have cards in his socks? And then I have these stories.
Mr. Paul.
I have the history. And what's really nice about it is knowing that you'll never be alone.
Yeah.
And that's what I love Archie's, is if you want to come in here and read a book, which a gentleman is doing now.
Yeah.
You want to play a game of pool, there's something for everybody here.
And I saw people working on their computers while they're enjoying a beer, so it's...
Oh, we have an excellent work from home section.
Ah, very nice.
Wow.
I like to work from home.
Sign me up.
So if you're in the Ukrainian Village neighborhood and you happen to find yourself at the corner of Iowa and Rockwell and you look up and there is a giant Hamm sign, do yourself a favor, walk into Archie's, sit down at the bar. Don't take up a lot of space. That gets people upset. Take up just enough space that you need. Have a beer, have a cocktail, and soak up a little bit of history. And then when you're going home and you're like, I have so much history, I want to continue, then by all means stop by. If you haven't had one here, and pick up a Conrad Seipp Brewing Company, we've got the Columbia, which is the Bock, we've got the Extra Pale, and we have the Bavarian. So make sure, what are you doing, Cody? Oh, Cody's pulling things away.
These beers
Cody's picking them up.
Taking the beers.
I know they're empty,
Cody's
but I'm
stealing
showing
beers
you.
again.
I drank them. All right, so there we go. Let me do this because we have a final toast that we would like you ladies to join us in. But before the final toast, I want to tell you, thank you for joining us on another episode of Crafty Brewers, Tales Behind Craft Beer. Be sure to support your local brewery and your neighborhood taverns because without your support, it's rough going for some of your favorite places. Also, come in to your neighborhood tavern if you are lucky to have one. It is a step back into the past. I know some of you might think, oh, they're so old and scary. They're not scary. Come
They're the
in,
best.
talk to people, have some fun.
Get a tamale from the tamale guy.
Tamale guys are here.
Wait, the tamale guy comes here?
Oh, yeah.
He just walked in.
He's here.
Pet a dog. There's all kinds of things going on here. Tamale Man is here. So do that. So we want to thank you, Katrina, and to Archie's for letting us take over a lot of space.
Yay.
Probably 3/4 of the bar. We've kept you down to like 2 patrons. We thank you for allowing us to be here today.
Well, I'm hoping on your supporters or your listeners to come out and help support us.
Yes.
Yes, because they lost a lot of business with us taking up all this spot.
Normally we have 300 people in here, but if the city asks, it's only 50.
That makes sense. Crafty Brewers, Tales Behind Craft Beer is produced by award-winning producer Cody Goff. You can visit our website, browse our archive of more than 40 episodes, and get in touch with us at craftybrewerspod.com. We release a new episode of Crafty Brewers every other Thursday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other podcast apps that you love. We do that first thing in the morning, and you can watch them on YouTube, because don't you want to see this face?
Yes.
Those faces. Don't you want to see those faces instead of just hearing them? Of course you do.
You know, they call them beer glasses for a reason.
That's right. Listen, so do most of the women I met. Well, that's another episode. We'll leave that for Crafty Brian, Tales Behind a Misspent Youth. You want to support the show? This is how you do it. Leave comments, tell your friends, subscribe, do all of that regular internet stuff. Cody, did I forget anything? Except saying thank you again to Laurin Mack, the president of Conrad Seipp Brewing Company. It was really a pleasure to have you. The story is fascinating. The beer is fantastic. You've got a new fan in Cody who is very hard to impress. Trust me, I've been trying to do it for 15 years. Impossible.
I can't toast. I don't have any beer.
Uh-oh.
Here.
We can solve that.
Here, oh yeah, open that one.
We've got some beers around here.
I didn't have my headphones on the whole time. We did say whose picture that is, right?
Oh no.
Ah!
There's Archie.
There's my grandpa.
That's Archie right behind us. And is that Grandma and Grandpa in the one above it?
No, that's grandpa and mom.
Oh, Grandma and your mom. So
And
his
my
daughter.
mom, yeah.
So there you go. Cody. Oh, it's crooked again.
We need some. You gotta have
yes,
that character.
I crooked it up just
That
for you.
Character.
All right, Lauren, what would you like to toast to?
I would like to toast to new friends and old friends and the beer that is just a little better than the kind you thought was best.
And Lauren, or Katrina. Lauren,
Whoever
you're
you
Lauren,
are.
you're Katrina.
To being a part of a community wherever you may find that community.
And Cody.
To the tamale guy who I'm about to buy the shit out of some tamales from, dude. Let's go.
He's
I haven't
pretty
had a
excited.
tamale guy in years. Is he still here?
Oh.
Please tell me he's still here.
No.
Did he go?
We'll find him.
Lost Cody.
We've lost the tamale guy in and out.
He's at the bar, Cody. I think he's at the bar, maybe not. And I would like to say,
He's here.
I would like to toast to gracious hosts, fantastic guests, and a connection to a history that I have enjoyed my whole life here in Chicago. So cheers.
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 Gross.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Tamale guy is literally a guy that walks around to bars selling tamales out of a cooler. They're delicious.